So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZWGames5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below. What's up YouTube, Darren here from 4 Games, bringing you my third place Evil Eye Demise deck profile. Now, I changed this up a bit from the previous profile, and there's still a lot of changes I want to make with this deck. It can be played in multiple different ways. And the version that I went with for my locals was the Demise version. Now this is where you rely quite heavily on your back row. You try and play it a bit more floodgate. But the best thing about this is you can side in a completely new engine that takes away the negatives of the Demise factor and adds in pluses of their own. So obviously the negatives of the Demise factor is you lose your hand advantage. Under Droll you can get seriously stuffed, but it seems people are starting to take Droll out a little bit more, especially at my locals. I didn't see any Drolls at all, which was really good. It allowed me to do a lot of searching and a lot of deck thinning, and Serziel is insanely powerful in the deck as well, and you don't need to special summon heavily. You can sit on your back row, sit on your main monster with Serziel, have a bit of protection going, and then of course with your artifacts you stun your opponent that bit more, and on top of that the floodgates that you play and the other back row that you play can really hurt your opponent. So without further ado, I'll take you through the deck profile. I'll take you through what I would change, how it went, and cards that kind of really affected the deck. So of course we've got triple Serziel, Watcher of the Evil Eye, and very important, you need this monster in your hand whether you're searching it out, so you have to have maximum capacity of this card and consistency to get to it. Medusa, you probably don't need to play her, but I would advise playing her as a safety net. It's very rare that you'd ever play her, but worst case scenario, if the game gets dragged on long enough that all your cards are in the grave, then she is your saviour. Easily sided out if you really don't like her or really don't think that she abuses the board as much as she can. But it also depends on what you're facing up against, as to once you set up Serziel, you could then set up Medusa and go from there. For your artifacts, we've got double Scythe and one Moral Tat. Now, there's a good thing and a bad thing about this is under Demise, this is great. The issue is, with Serziel, if you go first, obviously you haven't triggered his effects, you can't pop any of these in the standby phase, which then means they're dead for 2 turns, because you'd have this set, have your Serziel, can't use Serziel's effect, unless of course they Thanos Dragon you, which you're not linking, so they're not going to be able to. So going second, it's better that way, because then you would go second, they'd have their board up, you get your Serziel, play your crit spell, use Serziel's effect to pop something, set your artifact, pass the turn, then use Serziel's effect to pop that. So there's a bit of pros and cons, which is why you don't want to go maximise on these if you're going first. What I was considering is putting in the Mjolnir, I believe it's the Mjolnir, the one that when it's popped it revives one from the grave, because then what I could do is, as a later game, you can have one set and then bring back an artifact if you don't get into your Sanctum. But yeah, that's just it for the monsters. You want it very thin, like I said. The artifacts kind of counter spells anyway, and that's what you want in the Demise version. Triple card of Demise, incredibly good card in this deck. You don't need to worry about your hand advantage, because we're not playing the hand traps, but you do, it kind of sucks. The reason I decided to, so I was debating as to whether or not the Demise would be my side engine or my main engine. The reason I went for the main engine is, if I do go second, Demise can recover for me. So like, I can set on my board, bait out all of my opponent's gates, then I can play Demise, and Demise can recover anything that I might have lost, set a load of floodgates or a lot of back row that can probably cause my opponent issues, and then that way you're going into Sanctums, you're going into there can only be ones, and you're really slowing down your opponent and causing them issues. Next up, of course, triple Call by the Grave. You want all your effects going off, and Call by the Grave as well under Demise can be very powerful and useful. Triple Domain, of course, this is incredibly powerful as well. Pop it with Serziel, Revive a Serziel or Medusa. That's the only downside, is that it has to add an Evil Eye monster from your deck, and it has to add an Evil Eye monster from your graveyard. If it added an Evil Eye card from your graveyard, but monster from the deck, it would still be like, it would be crazy good. Double Terraforming to search it out. This is another downside of Demise, is you can only activate one of these per turn, so if you do end up having 2, you have to activate Search and then Set, which means you lose the battle damage effect, which is quite good once your Serziel is equipped with Selene, because then it obviously can't be destroyed by battle. Double Selene, you don't need 3, in the sense that you've got so much consistency searches out with Serziel, and then of course you've got Demise on top of that, that you've got to be quite careful. 3 can clog you. It would only ever really be good, because Surgical is a hard once per turn, is if you've got Surgical and Medusa on board, then you kind of want to hard search this, because you'd normal summon, if you haven't already searched one, you would normal summon your Surgical, search out one, activate it onto the Surgical, then if you have a Medusa, you need another one for that, but they can recycle themselves from grave as well, so it's not always the end of the world. Double Duality, again, you don't special summon during your turn as much, so Duality is very, very good and combos off nicely with, of course, Demise. The only downside is if you do Duality, then take your Demise, you get Droll during a bad situation. Double Artifact Ignition, again, another kind of pullback of Demise, is Demise you're going to be setting up your back row, so that's where it kind of hurts your trap trick, and it hurts your ignition, is if you do not think about it and you put all of these face down, it can really, really cause you issues. But the good thing about ignition is what you can do is during your opponent's during your opponent's draw phase, you activate ignition. Ignition pops a spell or trap on the field. If your opponent's got one, great. If not, you pop your own one. And then, of course, that would then set an artifact. Now, that goes off combos well if you've already used Surgial's effect, because then you would go draw phase, activate this, set one. Surgial's effect during the standby phase to pop the back row, or to pop the artifact, and straight away, even without getting into your Sanctum, you've locked your opponent out of their extra deck. So it can be very, very good, but I didn't use it and abuse it as much as I kind of wanted to, but that's another reason why I'm thinking about putting Mjolnir in the deck as well. It could easily be cut out. I'll show you when we get to the side deck how the side deck was easy to put in and out, because I knew the cards that I wanted to take out, so that made it a lot easier. And then we've got the one that repos, used it about once, so it's not that great. And then Confrontation, used it again once, again not great. I was considering putting the trap in here, the one that bounces 2 monsters, but then the whole idea of this is, in the Floodgates I didn't have Summon Limit with me, so I picked them up after the tournament, but basically Summon Limit would be quite good, because then if you combo it off with Surgical, you've got Summon Limit, you then use Surgial's effect to pop, so they normal summon, fine, they special summon, you pop it with Surgical, or you have Summon Limit Evade, they normal summon, they special summon, you pop their special summon, or you keep them in a sense of full security and you let them normal summon, cool, and then they go special summon, or they normal summon, you flip Summon Limit, and then they go, okay, special summon, you pop it with Surgical, they're not going anywhere, like, even if they special summon again somehow, they then can't overlay. So they're kind of stuck, and then that gives you pop fodder for your Surgical the next turn as well. So Summon Limit could be very, very good. Like I said, I just didn't have it to put in the main. Confrontation could easily be taken out, but there were some points that are like, damn, I need to pop some stuff, and I could search technically like an MST or a Cosmic Cyclone, depending on what you want to look at if you've got Selene on board. Triple deck can only be run. This was really, really good. It was weird in the zombie matchup, because obviously they had Zombie World, so I played deck can only be one. I luckily was locked into my Surgical, which was great, but they were locked into like any one zombie, so that was very, very cool that I was just able to keep popping through. It only got dangerous once we were getting close to time, because my Surgical, they weren't being able to special summon stuff, so Surgical wasn't going to be able to pop and get his attack boost up, so it was kind of pros and cons, but very, very good card, especially in the Demise version. Easily searchable. Triple Impermanence and triple Sanctum. Again, mainly because you can then search them off of Trap Trick. So I wanted to give Trap Trick more targets, which is why I've got Impermanence in there. And of course, Impermanence is a nice first turn hand trap. That also works well with Demise, because you can use Demise, set it, and you know, you're not worrying about losing it. And then Double Retribution, very, very good card. The shame is it only does spells and traps, but that then protects you from stuff like Twin Twisters, Regekis, anything like that. Anything that might cause you a little bit of issue, that's a spell or trap, evenly matched as well. And it was really, really funny, because with this card, against a Salamangreat player, we got up to like chain 7. So I think they went Balinks into Gazelle. I flipped, there could only be, no, I chained Thanos Dragon, because they had Bait just summoned Balinks. They then, I then chained, there can only be one. They then chained Raw, I then chained Retribution, and they then changed Solemn Judgment. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. So it was quite a funny chain that we went through that, but yeah. I'll take you through the extra deck, and then I'll take you through my side deck. So the extra deck, the only real card that I actually made in this deck was Durandal. Very, very good. Like, to be able to retarget your opponent's card effect so that it pops one of your back row instead can be very, very good if you've got your artifact set. And then resetting the hands can be quite good as well. I was debating, so I'll explain these ratios as we go. So in my side deck, I do play Extravagance, which is why we've got, you know, 2 of each of those, and then instant fusion targets, stuff like that. If I was to play Super Poly, I'll put this in. Like, my extra deck was a bit mismatched because there was a couple of cards that I took out last minute. Obviously, Master Change 2, Link Karibo to play it off of the Thousand Eyes, Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn, quite staple. I made them like once each. Borrowload, Borrowsword, Last Warrior, and Ultimate Falcon. So these 4 kind of were options to come off of Waking the Dragon, but at a very, very like rare circumstance you could make these. Never did. And if my opponent hit Waking the Dragon, these are kind of instant games, and you can put Naturia Xarion in as well, because that could be very, very good. Again, I didn't have mine until after the tournament, so you know, it was a nice one to put in and play around with. Okay, so now on to the side deck. Again, my side deck wasn't I'll explain it as we go, but it wasn't set in stone. So double Prank-o-Tots, just in case, you know, like if I know my opponent wants to go first, if I win the first game or whatever, and I know they're going to go first, then I want to put in a Prank-o-Tots to kind of cause my opponent issues. The only downside is this, is what you've got to keep in mind is, the second you bring out Prank-o-Tots, your Duality and Demise are dead. So the way I would kind of work it is, if I felt I was going to be special summoning during my turn with either Prank-o-Tots, or I felt that I needed my hand advantage, and I was definitely going second, I would take out the Demise and Duality engine, and I would put in Extravagance, Dino Wrestler, and Ash Blossoms, just so I had hand traps. I would also then put in Instant Fusions so that I could use Thousand Eyes and Millennium Restrict. Then, if I knew my opponent was a heavy Link Summon player, so if I knew I was coming up against Salamangreats or Sky Strikers, something like that, could then put in my Phantasmes or my Thanoses. You could bump this up to 3 if you wanted to, but like you'll see that most of my stuff is at 2s, just because I was trying out different options. Now, if I knew my opponent had seen my Demise in game 1 and knew that I was a heavy back row user, I knew that they were going to bring in Twin Twisters. That is where I started to bring in Waking the Dragon, and hoping that they hit it, because if your opponent hits these and don't, because you're not really, I mean, you could Kaiju the Sergio, but you're not going to try and waste the Kaiju on a Sergio if you don't absolutely have to. So I knew Twin Twisters were coming in, Waking the Dragon was great, and then you get a Thanos Dragon out, Ultimate Falcon out, you pretty much won the game. They can't beat you from there. And then if I was keeping the Demise in as well, different dimension grounds, just because it really stuns your opponent. Banishing all their stuff, like sometimes they forget about it because it's not like continuous, it doesn't linger. Being able to flip it, they go, okay, cool, I'm going to link these off. Okay, they're banished. Okay, I'm going to tribute these off. Okay, they're banished. Or if it's during your turn and you go, Cersei, pop it, it's going to get banished. If you're going to attack it, it's going to get banished. And you were getting rid of so many of their resources. Certain stuff, like, I mean, Orcus, they want to be sent into the grave, but it's then getting banished, so they're not gaining their effects. They were losing everything they needed. They were losing their resources. Dark Warrior were losing their resources. Salamangreat were losing their resources. And it was a very good card. But the issue is, like I said, turn 1s, your opponent is usually going to set up a board unless you disrupt them with your Ashes and your Phantasmes. If you go first, you want to disrupt them as best as possible, and then Waking the Dragon is a deterrent, because as soon as they Twin Twist your back row, they're not going to touch your back row again. They're going to be like, I can't afford to hit another Waking the Dragon if the extra monster zone's 3. And like I said, if they can get past either of these two, when these are in your extra monster zone, then, you know, they've got to be doing something. That would just be like lucky Kaijus in hand, and there's not really much you can do about that. So yeah, I had a kind of optional plan in my extra deck to juggle around, change the trying to think of the right word, not consistency, but change the direction of my deck, which could really catch your opponent off, because they'd be like, right, I'm expecting a load of back row, I'm expecting this, and then you would whack out, you know, your a DDG, or you'd whack out a Awaken the Dragon, and they're just like, what has just happened to me? Like, I mean, come on, how have I just fallen into that trap? But yeah, it was very fun. It was a great tournament to play, actually. There was a lot of diversity, a lot of fun games playing up, and definitely Evil Eyes had a bit of fun themselves as well. Now, of course, I'm not saying these are going to be the next top tier meta, but it's certainly a fun deck to get. The only issue that I've seen, that I saw yesterday, is Cersei was now like a 30 quid card. I get why, but I don't get why at the same time. It's not a top meta deck, it is a stun deck. It's very, very good, very, very fun, and there's a lot of ways to play it, like I said at the start. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this gives you an idea. Like I said, there's a couple of changes that I'm going to make. I'm going to another locals as well, so I'm going to make more changes and trial out a different version of this deck, maybe less on the Demise and more on hand control and hand traps and stuff like that. There's a lot of options. Like, I mean, I was looking at some cards just to play around with. I know I'm babbling a little bit, but I thought I'd quickly show you like other options. So I mean, of course, you've got your ogres, you got your twin twisters, mask changes if you want to, more DDGs, witches strikes you can play around with. Because if you're heavy up against Salamangreats and you go first with your Demise, you set your witches strike, you pass, they set up their board, you disrupt them a little bit. If they've got a roar, you let them play it, like you control them, and then you run into a roar. You're like, come on then, roar me. They roar you, you witches strike them, they're, you know, they're out. Red reboots if you're worried about that, effect veilers, kaiju, super polish, drolls, storm and mirror forces just because lol, waking the dragon, oh cool, and then, you know, more phantasmes as well. So it does give you a couple of options to play around with. Like I said, I've got a lot of ideas for this deck, and next week as well we get dual power, woohoo! So there's going to be a crap ton of decks coming your way, guys. So if there are any particular ones you want to see from dual power, put them in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to focus and try and get them out as early as we possibly can. Ideally what we're aiming for will be there are 3 versions of Dark Magicians coming up. There are spell books, we're going for cyber dragons, plants, rose update, zombies, like you name it, we'll make it. But yeah, put them in the comments below and we'll try and pump out as many of these as we can. I'll try and get 2 deck profiles out for you guys a day. We just want to make sure that the consistency's there and that we don't rush it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and until next time, guys, as always, happy dueling.
What's up YouTube, Dan here from All Games. Thanks for watching that video. If you liked it, please hit that big thumbs up button in the bottom corner as well. And don't forget to hit the big red subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. And make sure you click that notification bell as well so you know every time one of our new videos goes up. Throughout the whole year of 2019, we're going to have more deck profiles, duels, and of course pack openings for you guys to watch and enjoy the entire year round. So stay tuned for more, and as always guys, happy dueling.